Yo, what up? What up? What up? What up? What up? What up, Alejandro? How you feeling today, bro?
Feeling amazing, feeling amazing. Nice to see you back. We missed you last week.
Yeah, man, dude. It was a crazy last week. It was an epic last week, is what it really was. So it was probably one of the best weeks I've ever had in my entire life, and I say that with zero exaggeration, like at all. Like I honestly, it was I hands down like the event I was at. I was out in Georgia for an event called Running Man, and absolutely. I was telling Sam over the phone over the weekend actually that this was the best event I've ever done, period. What up, Sam?
Are you
I guess
still
Sam
doing?
can't hear us yet. Or Sam just doesn't respond to us anymore. You know, Sam's at that billionaire tech playboy level where he just like he don't say nothing to nobody. He's too cool. But yeah, man. Yo, how was the episode last week? I still haven't even watched the replay.
Oh, dude,
Oh, there you guys are. Okay.
missing out.
Dang,
Hi.
I gotta go back and watch. I heard it was like some super hot fire, especially with our guest on last week.
Oh yeah.
Oh, and Abraham's right. Today's the 1 year of the Think Big podcast. This is episode 52. This has been 52 consecutive weeks back to back to back to back. And yo, that's pretty awesome. Yo, appreciate you, Abraham. In
Thank
fact,
you.
yo, for the 1 year, we gotta make sure we get more people on here. Yo, guys, if you're watching, if you're streaming in live, make sure you share this out right now because I got some gems I want to drop. And then we have a special guest coming on tonight as well. We got an 8-figure earner popping in here tonight to
Hmm.
drop some gems, share some stories, and really impart some wisdom on the crowd and on the audience. But before we jump into that, yo, Sam, how are you feeling, dude?
Dude, I'm great. I'm super good. I'm actually it's it's amazing that we're a year in. Like holy crap. Like we've been talking about it and it's been coming, but like it's here now and that's weird. That I feel like we started this yesterday, to be honest with you guys. Like I feel like truly we started this like yesterday or a month ago, and that we're a year in is kind of uncanny, but it is amazing. I
Yeah,
mean, I'm stoked, man. I'm super stoked. And I mean,
I
dude,
agree. Like it
it's
doesn't feel like a year yet. I will agree with you there. Like it is surprising me that it's been a year already because it seems like it flew. It feels like it really did start like maybe just a few weeks ago.
dude, I know. It's shocking to me, but time flies when you're having a good time and you're with friends. And I would say that that's a testament to the fact that we're doing it with the right people. Because if it wasn't the right people, and we like, look at that, Alejandro's like, dude, I hit a year, I'm done now. It's like if it wasn't the right people, we would have been miserable, right? And it would have felt a lot longer. I think the fact that it went by so fast is a testament to the fact that we had the right people to do it with. So I'm honored to be in this group, man. Thank you guys.
100%. And yo, shout out to Abraham. I just want to throw this up here real quick. Shout out to Abraham. Says hasn't been following long, but I've been here since July 11th, episode 37. Shout out to you for knowing what episode and the date. That's cool. Like I appreciate seeing those kind of comments because it's like it brings me back and it's like wow. It's a cool feeling. So Abraham, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you. Shout out to Caleb hitting us up with the subscribe. So I'm going to jump into it because we got a guest coming on. We don't got a lot of time tonight, and I have a somewhat hard stop around 6 o'clock. I'll try and stay on a little bit longer. Today's episode might go longer depending on how we feel, how the guest feels, the conversations, and the engagement in the chat. If the engagement in the chat is low, we're just going to wrap it up at the usual time. But if the engagement's good,
Mhm.
you're getting value, and you're showing that you're getting value, that's how you feed this engine. This engine keeps going. So without further ado, Sam, you were talking about something that I got to experience in such a big way this weekend or this past week, which was you said it was the right people coming together with us, being on here, showing up, being able to make 52 weeks consecutively of the Think Big podcast was because it was the right individuals. Well, I agree with you on that. And this past week, I was at an event called Running Man. I'm still wearing my bracelet. Like, it was a fun event when you still rock the entry bracelet a week later. And at this event, it was hosted by Jesse Itzler. Now, some people know that name, some people don't know that name. So if you don't know the name Jesse Itzler, you might know a more familiar name, which is Sarah Blakely. And if you're not even familiar with the name Sarah Blakely, you're probably familiar with her product, Spanx. So Sarah Blakely is the woman who invented Spanx, and Jesse Itzler is her husband. Sarah Blakely is a billionaire. Jesse Itzler is a billionaire, each independent of each other's business. We're talking like Jay-Z and Beyonce power couple level here. And so Jesse is big into running, into ultra marathons, doing epic things with his life, getting on bicycles and biking across America, hiking up Mount Everest, doing breath work with Wim Hof, that kind of stuff. And he put together the first of its kind ever, an event called Running Man. And if you're familiar with, let me put it like this. If you've ever seen Woodstock, like I'm talking like the 1970s, 1980s Woodstock, where people were out in fields, Jimi Hendrix is wailing out on the guitar, tons of drugs and all that stuff being done. It was a Woodstock-esque vibe in the sense that we were out in this massive open field. There was an amazing stage, speakers, and just stereo sound systems booming through the openness of the Georgia, just acres and acres and acres of land. And amazing people coming together with that same mindset of love, connection, collaboration. Let's do some epic stuff. On top of that, they were also business owners, entrepreneurs. I was hanging out with one guy around the campfire one night, and we're just casually talking. And he's like, "Oh, yeah, actually, I created and started the largest window washing company in Toronto, Canada. Right? Our company is doing this many millions of dollars per year." Right? Next person standing over here. "Oh, yeah, I'm the president of this company that's on a Fortune 500 top 10. And it's just casual. And what I experienced while I was out there was the reminder of how important it is to be around people that are like-minded in both spirit and action. See, sometimes we get caught up spending time with people who understand the talk we talk. They get it, right? They understand the logic behind work hard. They understand the logic behind collaboration, being a go-giver. They get all of that stuff. They nod their head yes. They raise their hand. It's like someone going to church and praising with you. But then when it comes time to live it, they fall a little short of the mark. And here's what's interesting. While I was at this event, Sam, we're talking about over 300 people who embody the principle of going the extra mile, who embody the principle of making yourself uncomfortable for the sake of growth, for the sake of transformation, who embody not being worried about being criticized and worried about what other people think about you, and just showing up to run your own race, to be your own person, and to make yourself better and the people around you better. I have never felt energy so electric before, bro. I've been riding a high since leaving this event that I am unwilling to let go of. In fact, I've been setting a new standard in my life and in my world that if you are not coming in with strong, positive energy that is amplifying my growth, you need to leave. And it's unapologetic in how quickly I am pushing people out. I am not allowing you to complain. One of the big things that we had this week while we were at the event was the idea, it was an unspoken but very spoken because it was said over the microphone, that at this event, there will be zero complaining. Because this event included an ultra marathon, right? An ultra marathon is anything that's over 30 miles. So I ran 32.8 miles. And a lot of other people ran that ultra marathon distance of 30, 31, 32. In fact, there were two guys that ran 100 miles. 100 miles. They started at 4 p.m. on Tuesday night, and ran all the way through until Wednesday evening. 100 miles to raise $100,000 for cancer. Amazing. And so while we're there, we all know that this is going to suck at some point, that our bodies are going to be physically beat up, that our legs are going to hurt, our toes are going to hurt, that there's going to be stress. And we said, if anyone is to ask you, how are you doing? Your answer is great, sensational. I don't get tired. And it's funny because this correlates to business as well. So many times people, when I talk to them, I go to these meetups, we host these meetups, we're on stage speaking, and people come to us in the crowd and their business isn't doing as well as they wish it would be doing. And when you talk to them, they have an absolute victim mindset about the entire situation. And there's a difference between explaining the challenges you're experiencing and accepting a victim mindset about your moment and your circumstance. And so when I was at this event, we got to have the opportunity to really embody that through physical suffering. and let it transform the mind so that we can come back to our work. We can come back and sit down at the computer, lock in, and get the job done. And I want to remind people of how important it is to be taking care of your physical body, to be pushing yourself to that place of discomfort, that when you're going to the gym, that when you're doing these other things in your life, they are not separate. Sometimes we think that, okay, well, I can't, it's the gym, it's separate than what I do at my business. It all ties together. How you do one thing is how you do everything. The way you show up to the gym, the way you show up to your physical exercise is going to be the same way you show up to your work. And the same way you show up to your work is going to be the same way you show up to your family. It's going to be the same way you show up to your friends. It's going to be the same way you show up to your business partner. It's going to be the same way you show up to strangers in the world, when you're getting your gas pumped, when you're at the grocery store and you're checking out your food. And bringing it now back to this event, Jesse said a couple of things on the first night that he spoke. And we'll talk about this for a moment. He said something that is going to stick with me for a very long time, I feel. Besides mentioning that he will not complain, he said something that I wrote down. I took very few notes. I really only took about 5 notes because it's my job that when I go out to these places, I take notes for the sake of implementation, not just for the sake of knowledge accumulation and gathering and storing knowledge in me. That's useless. I could go look things up. But I want to take home the things that I can implement on. And he said these words. He says, pressure is a privilege. Pressure is a privilege. And that resonated. Because sometimes we get to these places in our lives and in our businesses where we start to feel the pressure. I know any new real estate investor, they know this. Any new entrepreneur, they know this. Any single mother or single father, they know this. You get to the place where life starts to throw more and more and more on your plate. And we start to think to ourselves, the first reaction is, man, why is this happening to me? Instead, we need to be responding with, I'm so grateful that this opportunity is being presented to me. Because pressure is a privilege. Because what comes from pressure? Pressure births champions. Pressure makes diamonds. Right? There's a saying that pressure bursts pipes, and pressure also makes diamonds. It's up to you what you do with the pressure, how you respond to the pressure. And so when Jesse said pressure is a privilege, it absolutely reframed everything in my mind. So that the next day when I was out running, at no point during that run did I ever think about quitting. Did I ever feel like this is too much? Did I ever feel like I want to stop? Because I recognized that as the pressure started to kick in around mile 25, mile 26, I was grateful to have the opportunity, grateful to be there, grateful to be growing. So he said pressure is a privilege, and that stayed. The second thing he said was that night, Tuesday night, he was leaving the sauna, built a massive 200-person sauna, by the way. It was absolutely nutty. Like a 200-person. Have y'all ever, by the way, Sam, Alejandro, you guys ever have a dance party in a sauna, like with a DJ and like 200 other people who are like in insanely good shape and like drinks are flowing? And I'm not talking like alcoholic drinks. I'm talking like energy revitalizing sort of drinks, healthy drinks. Like no,
I feel like you and I live different lives, Marlon. I'm just saying. I don't have the problems. I mean, Marlon just, it's kind of funny. He just subtly flexed on us. He's like, "Hey, Sam, have you ever been in a sauna? Drinking with like 50 hot, fit ladies?" That's what I heard right now. And so the answer is no. Unfortunately, no, I've not.
I mean, so you heard correct, right? You heard correct because that was the situation, and it was amazing, like just amazing. So good to see people taking care of their bodies, taking care of their minds, taking care of their finances, taking care of their spiritual health, taking care of their mental health, and just to be able to enjoy each other and themselves soberly, right? Refreshing, super refreshing, badasses. So Jesse's leaving the sauna that night, and a young man stops him, as any young man might take the opportunity to do when you see a billionaire just casually walking by himself. And so the young man stops him and explains, hey, Jesse, I got this business idea that I want to start. And here's the idea, Jesse, and he goes on to tell him, this is what I'm thinking about doing. This is the idea. And, he asked, Jesse, do you think my business can be successful? Right? Do you think my business idea can be successful? Do you think this is a good idea? And some of y'all might be thinking, man, that was a pretty good question, right? Kind of pitch your business to see if the billionaire thinks it will be successful. And Jesse says to him, you know what? That's a great question. Let me do this, if you don't mind. Let me think on it a little bit, and let me actually answer it on stage tomorrow night so that everyone could share in this answer. Are you okay with that? Young man says, yeah. So the next night, after the marathons ran, after everyone's transformed, had an amazing life experience, on stage, Jesse is now addressing the young man's question. And he tells us, yesterday I was stopped by this young man. He asked me about this business. He asked, could it be successful? And that young man, I don't know where you are, but here's my answer to you. Sure, it could be successful, but that's not really the question you should be asking yourself, because any business could be successful. Any business can blow up. The question you need to be asking yourself is, what will you do to make it successful? What are you going to do to make sure that business works? Because I can give you the best business idea, and that doesn't mean it's going to work. Because you have to be willing to do whatever it takes to make that business work. Are you willing? What are you willing to put in? What are you willing to do to make sure that this thing is undoubtedly successful? And that resonated deeply with me, Sam. Deeply. Because when you sit and you think in life about anything that's worth accomplishing, it's all doable. But what are you willing to do to make it happen? Will you push? Will you keep asking? When everyone tells you no, do you accept the third no, the fourth no, the 10th no? Or do you keep going until you get a yes? Right? Are you the person that asks, well, how long will it take me? Or are you the person that says, I'm going to do it until? Very similar to Alex Hormozi. Alex Hormozi, when he had signed on with the first social media company that he brought in to his world, that he said to them, great, I love everything you guys said. I want to work with you. Let's get started. But let me tell you this. I'm willing to work with you guys for the next 5 years without seeing any results, because I believe in the process and I believe in the vision of where we're going. See, it's rare nowadays to find the individuals. I don't even want to say nowadays. Honestly, I think it's always been throughout time. And this is why the 1% is the 1%. Because it's a mentality. Being the 1% is not about the resources. Being the 1% is not about who your dad is and who your mom is and what your last name is. That's not what makes you a 1%er. A 1%er is your ability to command and direct your mind, to command and direct your willpower, to command and understand your why power. And then to make up your mind on where you're going and decide you are not going to stop until. And every no that you receive, you will push past until you get the yes that you desire. To literally bend reality to your will. That is what it means to be a 1%er. And so for Jesse to share that answer, I was like, wow. Let me reflect. Am I willing? Right? Because I go to these events not to hear about how someone else made their fortune and how someone else made their lives and their dreams a reality. But I go to these events to continue working on making my dream a reality, to be around the people so I can feel what it feels like, so I can begin to embody that emotional, vibrational state on a daily. So I can learn to be a better version of me regularly. And that better version of me has to keep going. He has to will it into existence. He has to keep knocking on the doors, making the phone calls, making the connections, talking to people, asking for what he wants until he gets it, and speaking it out loud, not holding it and bottling it in, but actually sharing and expressing it out loud. This is what I'm looking for. This is what I've come for. Right? Like I share with people now. It's like, yo, I'm a speaker. Right? I speak on stages. I'm an author working on a book right now. I'm a high performance coach. I'm not a therapist, right? I'm not here to talk about your problems. I'm here to turn you into the most savage version of yourself so that you can click it on at will and turn it off when you need to get back home. These are the things I do. I'm going to go out and turn over industries, change families. And thinking from Jesse's standpoint, it's like, yeah, what am I willing to do to make that happen? And the answer is simple. I'm willing to do whatever it takes without stepping on somebody else. Whatever it takes. And so when I was at this event, Sam and Alejandro, it also the final thing, I could talk about this for hours, but I don't want to take up too much time talking about this. But one of the final things that really stood out to me was how powerful it is. And I preach about this all the time when I talk about the campfire effect, how powerful it is to go and put yourself in different rooms, to go and put yourself around the right people. And I'm not talking just online. I'm talking a physical proximity. People need to forget that these tools, my cell phone, this laptop, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all of it, they are all tools. They are all supplemental to us physically coming together. Right? If I had to follow the stream, if YouTube is one stream and Instagram is another stream and Facebook is another stream, and I followed that stream to the ocean, what does that ocean finally turn into? It turns into real life human connection, being face to face, eye to eye, belly to belly. That is what these streams turn into. And I can't overemphasize that. Because some people see me traveling and they think it's a nice luxury. No, it's a necessity. My success and my going and connecting with the right people, those two are so interwoven at the roots, it's not even funny. Maybe someone else has figured out how to do it without going out and connecting with people. I have not. I'm not that good. I'm not that smart. The only way I know how to succeed, the only way I know how to make money, the only way I know how to bring really epic things into my life is going out and making better connections and making better relationships and actually feeling my way through those relationships, not just thinking, okay, who has what I want? There's a part of it where there's logic combined, where I am thinking about who's in the stratosphere I want to be in. But then when I get into those rooms, I am very much feeling my way through what feels right. If there's not alignment, because Sam, you can attest to this. Alejandro, you can attest to this. We've been in some amazing rooms, and I've met some people who are worth a hell of a lot more money than I am. I've met people who have had so much more success than I've had at this moment in time. I've met people who have the resources to absolutely blow me up, but there is not alignment. And so I choose to walk away from those individuals. I've seen Sam walk away from those individuals. I know Alejandro will walk away from those individuals. So it's about protecting your peace and finding your tribe. And the only way you can find your tribe is if you start to let your vibration out. If you start to share, you start to act like a lighthouse in the dark. You make yourself bright. You shine that light. You communicate what you're actually thinking and what you're actually feeling. If you continue to bottle that stuff up, right? I know y'all are like here for some business advice. This is the best business advice I can give you. Speak your truth. Speak your truth. If it kills deals, speak your truth. If it ends partnerships, speak your truth. Because right now you might have some terrible things growing in your garden that need to die in order for everything else, the rose bushes, to truly, truly flourish. Now, I don't want to keep going on this because if I get too excited, I won't stop talking. And I know we have a guest coming on tonight. We got an amazing fella who's coming in to speak on Airbnb, making 8 figures in this industry. I mean, an absolute phenom. And I don't know him yet. This is Alejandro's connection, which also, by the way, you guys see how like having one dope connection brings you to another dope connection. But before I bring them on, is it cool if I make an announcement, Sam? I'm going to make it anyway. So I just want to, I got the head nod from Sam.
Yeah, go for it.
Alejandro. I want to make a big announcement, which is after running my first ultra marathon, I signed up for a 100-mile race that's happening in December, at the end of December, leading into the new year. So I'm doing my first 100-mile race because I was so damn inspired by some of the people that I saw on that stage, I saw at this event, and I seen what people are doing. The second thing is Andrew Linder, amazing human being. He's gearing up in March to run across America over 3,200 miles with a weight vest. And maybe he doesn't want me announcing this, but I just announced it. So hopefully the 1,300, 1,400 people on here aren't going to go tell Andrew that I already told people. But he's going to be running across America with a weight vest over 77 days of consistent running. And I'm going to be joining him to help him out. I'm going to be his high performance coach the entire way through the trip. So we're figuring out the logistics. The reason I'm telling you guys is because he's going to be raising money to stop human sex trafficking. So he's doing this for a cause. We're trying to raise as much money as we possibly can. So I just want people to be aware that this is going to be something that's happening in the future. And also we're very actively looking for a RV and an Airstream so that we can take this thing and get it across the country. So we're looking to buy one. So if anyone has that, reach out, DM me. Would love to connect with you. Would love to buy it off of you. And I'm super stoked about that. So that's going to be happening in March of 2024. Be on the lookout. Be on my social media. Be aware that's happening. And it's going to be for an amazing cause. And it's going to be the first time anyone has ever done this in the world with a weighted vest. No one has ever done this ever. It is a world's first. So with all that, guys, I'm gonna stop talking because you see, I'm excited about this. I can keep going forever.
Did you say March 24th, bro?
March 2024.
Oh, okay. Not a specific date.
No, not a specific date yet. We're not locked in on the. Well, you know what? We are locked in on the exact date. I just don't know it because that's why I have an assistant.
Okay. Well, I'm just gonna put it on there in March. I want to put it on my calendar.
Yeah, man. For March, for a 30-day or 3 months, I'll be on the road with Andrew Linder, Linverse Land, and we're gonna be going across the U.S. on foot.
Bro, 2023 went by fast, bro.
Dang, sure did.
Holy crap!
Yeah, man.
I feel like a lot of the stuff that I learned, I didn't have enough time to implement them yet. You guys don't feel that way? Like you've gained so much value this year from amazing people and like podcasts and everything, and you just haven't implement like over 60% of those things.
I feel like I implemented a good amount this year. I feel like I implemented as much as I could.
Yeah.
That's a lie. There's always more that can be done, but
there's never enough time. That's
never
the thing. We need more. We all need more time. But Alejandro, I think our special guest is actually waiting on us right now.
Mr. Robert. Let's go, man. So yeah, this is a great friend of mine. Robert's it's an individual that I've been following since 5 years ago, I believe, when I wanted to get into the Airbnb industry. This is while I was doing wholesaling, and I was over here putting out bandit signs and getting calls from angry people. And there was this guy on YouTube that says, hey, you don't need to own the property to do Airbnb. You can just rent it, do rental arbitrage. I remember my first rental arbitrage. I was going back and forth with Robert, like, hey, is there a specific language you have to put in the contract? All it is, you just have to have permission to have another tenant in there or sublease the property, which is interesting. And people have taken this into a high level. Like people will go from single family to apartments all at the same time. I've seen so many crazy stuff. But Robert and I have been staying in touch for, again, 5 years back and forth, maybe once or a couple of times a year. And we've seen each other grow a lot. And I'm super excited to see and hear about his journey because I'm really interested to know more about his journey. This is why when we were talking about bringing guests, I'm like, man, I know someone that's been working consistently, not someone that's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to try this. No, this guy has been working at it consistently. So we're going to bring him on stage, show him some love, ask some questions in the chat because we want to keep this going for another hour, perhaps, depending on how live you guys are in the chat. There's a lot of people that DM me on Instagram saying, hey, I have to join this because I'm in Airbnb, so I would love to learn. So yeah, man, let's bring him on stage and let Mr. Robert himself introduce himself.
Well, thank you for having me. It's good. I love what you guys are doing here. And I love the Think Big podcast. I love the title because ultimately all it takes is you to think big, and it's that simple. So I'll go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Robert Iacob. I'm 26 years old, and I've been a part of the short-term rental industry for the past 5 years. I mean, I started in 2018, and I've stayed consistent with it. I never let off the gas, and the past 4 years have definitely proven the results of that. So a little bit about my company. We're currently managing 230 properties across 10 states. So we have a pretty decent sized portfolio. I know there's bigger out there. Definitely a lot to unpack when you scale something up, though. And that's what the past 4 years have been about for me. To get started, though, when I first entered the game and the short-term rental industry, 2018 was relatively untapped. Like there wasn't very much competition, not very much activity going on at all in the industry. And as the years have gone by, obviously information has been processed faster, and now more people are involved. But there's still a whole lot of upside, and that's why I'm here today. And I'm glad you brought me on. To get started about me, though, started with one property, and I was stuck there for an entire year. And then in the second year, I got my second listing. But also in the second year, I started looking at what I wanted out of life. And I guess that think big comes back and ties back into this pretty well, because I realized that there was just a whole lot more out there, a whole lot more opportunity. And I started creating a game plan of what it would take to grow faster. Obviously, me by myself, it took me, the time it did to operate and maintain. So I ended up bringing an investor on board, and that ultimately led to the vertical acceleration that we've been able to achieve. So it's pretty remarkable the way it played out. I had the opportunity to sit down with an investment banker in Los Angeles, actually. So I pitched him on the idea, and I kind of showed him what I had been up to. And from there, he gave me the money to go run with it. And ever since then, I've been, obviously building the systems and hiring the teams and creating the procedures and protocols to grow to the level that we've grown to. And this is just scratching the surface. I feel like I'm still getting started. It's always day one. And that's really, kind of the backstory here. I mean, what kind of questions you guys have regarding it?
Yeah, Robert, I absolutely love that, man. First off, thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate having you here. And I love the story. And I love what you said, how year one was just the one Airbnb, year two essentially was just the second Airbnb.
Yes.
But you saw something there, right? Like it sounds like you sat down and you started to envision what, like you said, what your life can be. I'm curious for you, like, what was the difference between, like, when you saw that vision? I got a lot of questions, bro. So like, don't worry.
Sure.
But that first vision, that when you were looking at, okay, I'm just doing one Airbnb and two Airbnbs, compared to like this next vision that allowed you to go and sit with the investment banker and be able to give him a pitch. What was the difference in vision? So like, what was the vision before when you got started? And then what did it transform into?
Yeah, ultimately, I realized that, I was writing a growth strategy. So obviously, I wanted to scale. And I think everyone here that, is involved in this sector, everyone wants to grow. No one wants to stay the same. And, I kind of thought about it, and based off of the numbers and what I had already accomplished, from a relatively young age, I thought, 10 wouldn't even suffice. Let's say I scaled it up to 10, and I wrote it all down. So I ended up writing, let's take this to the next level. And I realized that would require amount of capital that I didn't currently have at the time. And so, it was just really looking at the industry and looking at what other people were doing. And a big revelation for me was one time I was in Dallas, and I stayed at short-term rental through a company called Stay Alfred, and they had hundreds of properties, and I was doing it with one, and they were doing it with hundreds. And I'm like, well, look, there's a couple guys who got together and they built this portfolio. They did this thing. What would it take to get there? And that's really where I started expanding the vision. All of this kind of goes back to my YouTube channel. I mean, I started documenting it pretty early on, and I took a hiatus for the past 4 years. I've not really updated anyone with the process and like what I've been up to, but it all started with YouTube, and it stemmed from YouTube. And I even documented like that time that I stayed in that, in the Stay Alfred unit. And I kind of As time went on, it just came down to seeing what was out there and what people were doing. And ultimately it's just people, right? Like we're all just here, having a conversation. So it's so different at the highest level, just a bunch of guys that want to make something happen that's bigger than them and that lasts a lot longer than they're going to last ultimately.
Bro, I absolutely love that. So I'm curious. I agree with you, right? At the highest level, it's the same thing. It's just you have executors having the conversation versus just mere wishers, right? Some people
Absolutely.
will talk wishfully, and some people talk with the purpose and the sake of, hey, let's get going. Like let's move at the speed of right now. And
Absolutely.
that's amazing. So when you went in and you pitched this investment banker, was that your first time? Because you said you're relatively young. Was that your first time ever like going and pitching and asking for sounds like a large amount of capital?
Yes, absolutely. And that, it was my first time, and I would say there was a bit of luck there and also destiny, and everything kind of ties in, as part of my story. But yeah, that was a 50-50 moment for me, and it would have it could have gone one or two ways. You could have said, see you later, go home, or let's do business. And it's interesting because if you never ask, that's 100% no. So you got to ask. You got to take the uncomfortable step and put yourself in a position to really know what can exist for you as far as opportunity. But yeah, we've been working closely together. He's the CFO of the company, so we've been working closely together for the past 4 years, and he's much older than I am, so he's already had a whole career established, and it's just cool to have someone like that to be in business with. Definitely a lot of mentorship and stuff involved there as well.
So, Robert, let me ask you this. What was the pitch? Because I'm sure people are wondering, like, so when you sat in the office, like, what did you come to this guy and say? Like,
So it was, it wasn't just an empty pitch. I had a year's worth of performance. I had historical data. I had generated revenue. I had a model. I had numbers. So I did put some time into creating something that was real based off of what I had done. And ultimately, we were sitting there having the conversation. And 45 minutes into the pitch, I realized that, hey, I'm still here. He's still listening. This must be a good thing. Must be a good sign. But definitely, you want to come prepared. I spent hours preparing beforehand. Sat there for about 4 hours, just going over everything, making sure it was going to be solid. But the pitch was pretty straightforward. It's look, I have the numbers for this model, and it's profiting and it's working. What happens if we just multiply it and add some zeros behind all these numbers, and then what are we looking at there? And I remember telling him specifically, we'll have 100 properties. And at the time, he's like, slow down. He's like, you gotta start, from 1 to 2. You can't just go to 100. But I was overly ambitious, and clearly I executed on the ambition. Years later, we're here and we're in the process of raising our Series A funding round. It's been a very difficult year to try to raise a Series A. I'll say that much. One of my highlights of the year was actually pitching Credit Suisse 2 weeks before they went bust. So we had a conversation with Credit Suisse. The guy was all excited. It was one of their managing directors. And then they stopped existing. They got bought out by HSBC. But yeah, I mean, this year it's been pretty challenging. I started at the beginning of the year, and I remember telling Alvarez, right?
Oh, Alejandro, yep.
Alejandro, okay. Yeah. I
Well,
remember talking to Alejandro about this back in April.
real quick. Robert knows me by Alvarez, which is my my Latin artist, my stage name when I was a Latin artist. So this is new to him. For him to even call me Alejandro, it's new. So
That's why we connected back then, because I saw you were doing cool stuff on stage, and you're obviously breaking the norm of what it's like to go through life. So
yeah,
Robert, there's an entire community of people that have no idea about Alejandro's like past life. And the first time he showed it to me, I was like, bro, that is not you. That's like your evil twin brother, dog. Like,
right. No,
get out of here. But so that's crazy. So by the way, I love the broadsword in the background. Like, do you view your life as like being on a quest right now? Because like
this
I
is
get
war.
quest vibes from
Yes, every day is war. It's modern day warfare. I mean, business is in a lot of ways ties back to, strategy. You got to make sure that you're looking out for yourself and the ones close to you, and absolutely execute on action. A lot of this past 4 years have been created through action. It's like not sitting around guessing. It's going in and getting your hands dirty, just taking the risk. Um, and that has definitely been an eye-opening experience for me.
So and I love that, man. Like the through action. I was just like sharing with the audience before you came on stage that this past week I just ran my first ultra marathon, and it was 32.8 miles that I ran. And a lot of it was just going out there knowing that at some point this was going to suck. Like it's not a matter of will it suck, it's at which mile will the suck kick in. And what do you get? Like I look forward to those moments because I know that if you push through it, it's where the victory is. Like the victory and the transformation is on the other side of that discomfort. Is that something that your mindset was already geared towards, or did you have to start to cultivate your mind to be able to withstand it? Like, how do you basically because I'm sure you see this, you don't think the same way as most people, as the typical, so
Absolutely.
what for you helped cultivate that shift of mindset? Was it always there, or was it something that you developed intentionally over time?
It was not there, and it's a role that I knew I needed to fill. So I knew I needed to become this person, this highly efficient, high performer. Obviously, as you grow up and go through the system of education and what you're told to do as a kid growing up, you don't learn these things, and you don't really learn the discomfort in the sense that like you're going to have to go out there and do all this work. So definitely cultivated over time. Year one, I would say that I had a lot of trials, and I had to learn a lot about myself and what I could actually, accomplish if I set my mind to it. One of the biggest takeaways, though, is not procrastinating. And I think that naturally we all just, want to kick back and relax and have a good life. But when you want to go, accomplish a goal, or you set yourself onto a path, you really have to take into consideration that time is of the essence. It's the only thing that we don't have. There's a Latin phrase, memento mori, and it's we're all dying. So every waking minute, that was a big one for me, is realizing that I'd had to go through these trials and these discomforts in order to fill the role of CEO and leader ultimately.
I absolutely love that. Now, I'm curious to know, which I love what you did, right? You found the investment banker, you pitched. Essentially, it sounds like not only did you get the loan, but he came in as the CFO, right? So
he came in, yeah, he came in as an equity partner. So this opens a whole new world. Most people really won't know much about this world, and it's the startup world. It's the mergers and acquisitions. It's just a high level corporate America that seems so far away, but within a few papers signed and some money coming into an idea, anyone could have access to their own C corporation, which is what this structure is. So he came in as an equity partner and as an early investor. Obviously, he took a chunk of equity, but it's a whole playing field that I was new to, and I'm only 4 years into it, and there's still so much more to go, because the ultimate goal of all of this would be a liquidity event, or in some kind of fashion in the future to build an enterprise value and then to sell it off or IPO it. There's no limit to what you can accomplish, and that's the American dream ultimately. Is everyone has access to this opportunity, and that's a structure behind it. It's a C corporation. There's common stock, so that's where all my energy has been focused, is building this enterprise value and making sure that the stock that I have ownership of is worth something in the future and currently now.
I love that. And let me ask you this, Robert, because on the show, we talk a lot about thinking big. Sam Singh here was always preaching to individuals about scale, about teaching them how they can put systems in place, hire and manage the right people, and put the right people in the right seats. Is that something you knew from the very beginning, or is that something that you started to learn with the mentors? Like, when did that realization click for you? And then how has that process been with seeding the right people and implementing the right systems?
It's actually started with just taking action and taking that leap of faith, right? Most small business owners don't want to trust anybody else inside of their operation. So they're not going to give someone the time of day to, say, here, you have to be responsible for this, and et cetera. And it was just trial and error. And over time, I made the mistake of, hiring the wrong people. And that ultimately had, negative impacts on the operation. All the systems, though, were created through action, right? Like I was the one to first go through and do the turnovers, the cleaning, and know kind of what the operation would consist of on that level. And it's just a matter of putting it in a list form and then giving it to someone as this is your workload. Like this is what you have to do is check every box off this list and your job is done. And if not, obviously there's going to be a problem. So you can easily start to filter out, people who are slacking off, etc.
So I love that. So you went through and you made some of those wrong hires. And I think that's something that holds a lot of people back. In fact, I was having a couple conversations over this weekend at an event we were at where people were basically struggling with how do I make the right hires, right? And do you believe now, based on what you've seen, there's ever a way to ever skip making a couple of wrong hires?
I think you just got to go for it, and you have to have your systems in place, right? Like you have to know that these are your core values and what you're looking for, and that these are your expectations. But ultimately, it comes down to the people that are going to be a part of it. And I have people that I hired from day one 4 years ago that are still working in the company, and they're still part of the team. And there's obviously people that come and go, but you're not going to know until you create that system and then you plug somebody in there to start executing on the tasks. And I think a lot of it ties back to having a big vision and being able to share that vision with whoever's joining the team, right? Because, you have to make it, they have to feel that they're part of something that's bigger than them. Because ultimately this for me is bigger than me. It's enterprise value. I can remove myself from the position and then hire another CEO. And then, I'm step back. The system is still running smoothly. There's things that will, continue to play out. But a big part of it at first is that vision and making sure that it's aligned across the board.
So I love that. And I agree with you entirely. In fact, that was one of the big takeaways I had from my past week down at the event I was at, where it occurred to me that if the vision's not big enough, then like the vision should be so big that every time you share it, and you tell me if you agree with this, that every time you share the vision with a person, they should have one of two thoughts. The first thought should be, hell yeah, I want to be a part of that. Or it should be, damn, I'm not thinking big enough. If your vision isn't making people think one of those two things, the vision's not big.
Completely agree. And I mean, it's hard to be a visionary and to think that big. I mean, ultimately, you have to have something that you really believe in, and you have to have something that works, because you could sit there and spin your wheels for quite some time on something that's never going to do anything. And that is really disheartening. But I think in today's day and age, there's so much abundant opportunity for everyone with the internet, and the way things are progressing is just shocking. And from my standpoint is just seeing everything accelerate so fast. I agree with you that the vision has to be laid out clearly.
Yeah, and Robert, what you just said, I'm just like, oh man, that needs to be on a t-shirt, right? Like having the vision that's big enough, right? So it's to dream big, but then also it has to be something that works. And I think that's that healthy dose of reality where I want people to think big. And at the same time, it's like, okay, results speak. And at some point, you have to produce something that you can show people to get them on board. So I have one more question, and I know Sam and Alejandro are probably gonna have some questions about Airbnb. However, this one's a little bit, because I love getting into the mindset of people, right? Like I like talking about the invisibles. It's easy for us to look at financials and the numbers can read a story to us. But I want to know for you now, as you're thinking bigger and as you're putting yourself into new opportunities and you're thinking from a standpoint of enterprise value, which I just love. Most people are still self-employed. Like they're thinking, how do I get my next deal? And you're thinking, how do I build this thing so I can walk away for 6 months? And when I come back, it's even bigger without me. And that's just a totally different headspace to be in. What does it look like now for the sort of rooms and social groups that you put yourself around? Are you noticing that you now essentially have a different social group or a different tolerance for people? And if so, what does that look like in your day, like at this moment in time?
Very isolating to be in my shoes right now, just because I'm at the point where I've run my lifelong friends that I've grown up with, as far as conversations and things that would kind of fuel a great conversation and like ambition. So with my personal friends, I removed all business conversation altogether because just some people don't choose to go down that path, and that's fine. That's completely okay. But as far as finding other like-minded people, I'm currently sitting in Springfield, Missouri, and I don't know if that exists out here. Thanks to Zoom and digital world, I can have high level conversations all day, but it's definitely something that you'll have to make as a sacrifice. And in my perspective, it's 100% worth it to make that leap. And obviously that will ultimately introduce you to bigger circles of people that you can network with. I have a bunch of friends that I've met through Instagram, such as Alejandro, where we connect, and we'll link up once a year or something, as it may be. But that's it. I like to see the ones that I'm close with that are killing it. I like to see them crushing it from a distance, and they feel the same way. Every time we catch up, it's always just celebration, and that's part of the process of all this.
I love that. We'll make it a point that when we do the next mastermind, that you'll be getting an invite to come on out.
I appreciate it.
Because I get it, right? Like, and I think that's why I want to address it, because we'll choose sometimes to go into purposeful isolation. That's how me and Alejandro got connected, and he and I started talking and like agreed so deeply. We just resonated on that. It's like, I will step into purposeful isolation and cut myself off from the world rather than spend time with the wrong people that I feel are pulling me backwards and go places where my dreams are going to be brought down. Well, it's like, look, it takes enough energy of my own to push into this dream, to build it up. I cannot allow, it's irresponsible of me to allow someone else to come and tear it down before it's ready.
100%. And the ones that love you will know that it's not anything to do with them. And, I've had to go in these moments of isolation quite a few times. Even when I first started my YouTube channel, there was a whole year where I was ghost. I was just locked in, trying to get that monetized. So no, it's 100% true.
Dude, I absolutely love that. So let me open this up to Alejandro and Sam, because Rob, you might have seen, I can talk, I can ask questions. Like, I love conversations, especially with intellectual guys like you, guys that are intentional, guys that are thoughtful, and people that do more than just speak, but your actions are, they speak volumes for you. If you never said another word, your actions would tell the story. So let me see if Alejandro or Sam have anything they want to ask, or else I'm just going to jump right back into questions.
Okay, let's do it.
I have something. Robert, do you prefer Robert or Rob?
It goes both ways. I mean, I prefer Robert, but I mean, I get called Rob, and it doesn't.
We'll go Robert on it, because you know what, we have to give you the esteem. You're kind of a badass. So one, thank you for being on. I mean, this has been so cool. One thing that we love doing, Marlon and I absolutely love doing, is we all do real estate stuff. You're in real estate through a lot of arbitrage, a lot of STR operations, but this as well as we do. The real estate industry can be a bit of an echo chamber, right? It really can. And it's a lot of people having the same talks the same way over and over and over again. And it makes me lose my damn mind. And so one thing that's really big, Marlon mentioned it, is I am obsessed with really one thing, and that's not even being an investor. And I buy tons of real estate. I own tons of property. We crush it there, but my identity is not to be an investor in real estate. My identity truly is to be a business owner. That goes past being a CEO. It goes past being a founder. It goes to the element of being a business owner, building something that is truly massive in enterprise value, and you can sell ideally at some point. The thing is, when we start having talks about scaling and liquidity events and raising the funds, and maybe even going down an IPO route, right? Because that may happen. No one your age, roughly our age, in our mid-20s in this industry even understands this verbiage. Where did you get this business mind? Because up until now, I haven't met someone. So I'm literally just a year older than you. So I'm 27, and I'm telling you right now, man. Marlon knows this. It's one of my biggest things. You mentioned feeling isolated, right? Marlon knows I'm working extensive. I'm working my ass off on scaling a business that we plan to have a giant liquidity event in years. It's not going to be anytime soon. It's going to be in a few years. And I feel isolated in that because, bro, I have a lot of friends who do real estate, and we can resonate on that, right? But they just want to buy another property. They want to buy another Airbnb, another midterm rental, do another wholesale deal. My thing is, how the hell do I make $100 million valuation, or how the hell do I make $100 million exit before I'm 30? That's my goal.
That's the magic question.
And exactly. So I'm going to give you some insight, like some context on where I got this. So I actually have an executive MBA. So I used to work for the federal government. I went and got an advanced business degree, went to one of the best business schools in the country. So I understand where that comes to from me. Where the hell did you get this level of thinking? Because it is rare, man.
It is rare, and you're 100% right. Like if you look at the statistics, like very marginal amount of Americans own businesses, and then a marginal amount of those Americans even succeed with business. So it is a very great question. And the truth is, my mother is an entrepreneur. So she's an immigrant from Romania, and she came to this country with nothing, just a backpack full of papers back when she was a teenager, and she started a business about 15 years ago. It's an assisted living in the healthcare niche. So she had the opportunity to buy this thing like back in the day. It was distressed, and I grew up alongside her. Actually, the story is pretty, goes pretty deep, but we were living at the business with her. Like the whole family had moved in because you should put all of her eggs in one basket there. And I grew up kind of watching her hustle, and from there I learned the value of money pretty early on. You know, and you have to work for it. And you know, as time went on, obviously went through the school system, and my initial plan was to go be a registered nurse. Like that's all I had set out for myself. I was gonna go get a college degree and go become a nurse and work a day job, but obviously it didn't happen. And something inside of me, I would say it's in my DNA. Obviously, she did it and she succeeded with it. She's still a business owner to this day. So I would say it's part of my blood. But I really, as far as me learning all of this, I'll tell you right now, all the information anyone could possibly want is accessible to them. And the MBA is valuable. Obviously, it gets you that six-figure job, but the action is worth more than the MBA. So like going out and doing the thing, you know, I feel like I've gotten my own MBA in the past 4 years, building high-level partnerships and obviously working at a different pace than most people would be used to.
Love it, love it. You know, it's really cool when we dive into people's origin stories. Especially the child of an immigrant, right? So fun fact, I was raised by a single mom who's also an immigrant, and she, because she had not much going for her in the educational space, she couldn't get a job. So her whole thing was she tried to start a ton of different businesses. Now, most of them failed. One of them really did pretty well. And so it's really freaking cool to see the similarities there, whether it's Romania or it's anywhere else in the world. There's a lot of cool parallels that we run into. And, you know, it's funny that you mentioned that. There's maybe a small handful of people that I've met who've got a similar trajectory and a similar pace in how they move at your age. And it's the fun fact is I think all of them have come from an immigrant background to some degree. And there's something different about it. Alejandro, I think you and I have talked about this extensively, and there's just a different, I don't want to say a value system, but maybe it's a different seriousness or appreciation for the opportunities in front. I freaking love that, dude. That is phenomenal to see. And yeah, it's super cool. It's super cool seeing someone who at your age has gone as heavy as you have into business. And it sounds like you haven't gone to business school. So you didn't have that as the conditioning. You just kind of fell your way into the things.
Yeah, I'm a community college dropout, technically. I did 2 years at a community college and decided it wasn't for me.
Dude, that is epic. Okay, I'm actually curious about the portfolio, just from a tactical standpoint. How much of it is, you know, owned versus arbitraged?
So I do own a few multifamilies and some properties. Very small portion of it is owned. Um, and the bulk of it is like the hundreds of leases is all arbitrage. But I'll tie into that topic. I mean, ultimately, this is a hospitality business. So we're building a tech-enabled hospitality brand, and you know we're operating through our controlled asset, which is the lease holds that we have. So the lease is the most scalable form of doing this if you really want to grow a brand. And you know, if you're the mom and pop investor, you want to have 2-3 properties that you're going to just short-term rent. That's cool. But this is definitely not the angle that I took. And the leases, it became more profound as I obviously grew in the business. Started out with just doing corporate leases, which is a pretty common piece of information that most people have probably come across if they're looking to do this. But it elevated when we started working with bigger partners and we started doing master leases. So we would just take 20, 30 properties, package them into one lease, one document, one signature, and that's really where the scaling started to evolve. And that's where we did most of our growth is through those master leases. And right now, just macro level, we're looking at the market. Obviously, things are looking pretty interesting just from macro level financially in 2023 going into 2024. So we still have our foot on the pedal as far as growth is, but we kind of slowed that down and just taking a look at what's going on right now.
Dude, I love it. I love it. One thing that you mentioned, and it comes down to scalability, right? The difference between when you go leases, and I'm going to put master leases to the side here, but leases versus purchasing. I mean, unless you're leveraging something extremely, extremely nuanced like creative financing, which the three of us here on the side, we do tons of creative financing. The things about creative financing is it's not nearly as available as there is people who have properties up for lease. And it was actually one of the most bonkers thing when we got into arbitrage in the beginning. We built out this scraping tool to basically scrape Zillow, Redfin, and MLS for things that went on rent. And then we built this cross scraper. I probably shouldn't say this live. Whatever. We built this cross scraper that was basically scraping AirDNA and data Rabu, and it would basically spit out and sequentially tell us which listings would produce us the most in Airbnb revenue,
Very
right?
cool.
Projected based on the algorithms.
Right.
And then it was the stupidest thing. The first, literally, we would sequentially filter it and sort them by the highest projected multiplier, like for the money based on rent rate versus STR production revenue. The first lead that we called, and it was me that made the call, we locked them up on the spot. And that was it. It was about a 13-minute conversation. And at that point, I literally put the phone down, and my partner was next to me, and he's like the scraping genius behind it all. And we're like, holy shit, what just happened? Right. And then all we had to do in the property was turnkey, and all we had to go do is basically bring enough money for design and furnishing to the table. And that's when it also unlocked for us a little bit. Now, arbitrage isn't the vehicle that I'm chasing. We chase data in a different way. But an interesting thing with the arbitrage model, to your point, the scalability is insane, and you unlock so much thanks to not being as capital intensive as buying the property, not being as legally intensive as owning it, especially when you're doing things like creative finance that have such a long cash conversion cycle. So, dude, I applaud you for at such a young age being able to analyze that, because a lot of people are going to be like, well, I want to own because I want to own. And then here you are thinking about, well, yeah, owning is great. I'll own some. But the reality is I can pour gasoline on the fire if I purchase enough in a short amount of time. And then if you go tech enabled and then you build maybe a platform around it, you do any of those things, and like now you're entering SaaS territory. Now you go insane. So I applaud you for having that brain, dude.
So we actually did last year. I launched an app on the App Store and on Google Play, and it is a fully functional product that allows you to go and book directly with our company. So, I mean, we have the Sleepover app, and that's part of the vision too, is all along the way is going to be something that people can use as a, ultimately as a way to enhance their experience and have what people look for. It's convenience and affordability when it comes to something like this. So that's already underway. We've already launched that. It's V1.1.1 right now. So, it's there, and that's exciting for me. And going through that process, working with the dev teams on how to get this thing going was a big chunk of the year. It took me about 6 months to launch, but the app's already done over $1 million, and it's remarkable to see that. Aside from Airbnb, aside from short-term rentals, we created something that has market value.
And then that's going to be, and that's largely going to be direct bookings, right, through the app?
Yeah. Everyone, you can come book 2 nights, or you can come book 3 months. Most of the reservations through the app are travel nurses and people looking for midterm housing, because it's the cheapest method of doing it. There's no service fee. We're not charging anyone a service fee. So it's cool to be a part of that.
So, okay. So, damn.
You know what? I got a question here for you, because I think the biggest thing that stops people in their tracks when they are looking to step into the space is, well, Robert, Airbnb and VRBO are already in the space and they already have a huge market share. How are we going to go and capture any of that? What is it that you and your team are looking at as the opportunity to basically capture some of the market share and pull them off of the apps and bring them to the Sleepover app?
Right. Well, it's cool to see that there's already there's already companies, right? Airbnb and Vrbo, they've gone fully committed. They're not going anywhere, that's for sure. And some would say that they're actually monopolies in the sector. There's just so many people, right? There's so many billions of users, and right now there's a ton of headlines that are frowning down on Airbnb and the way that they've done things. And some people just prefer what's most affordable, and that's just the bottom line of what we're offering. Is, hey, you guys had a bad experience with these expensive booking platforms, come book with us, and there's no service fee. You're just paying directly for the cost of accommodation, and we'll work in the best rate on the market too. We're very competitive in that sense. So you got to just really take charge and be fearless. And I'm not saying in any case that Sleepover is going to one day overtake Airbnb. That would be insane, right? They're a $100 billion company. But we're starting here, domestic in the U.S. in the markets that we're operating in, and then slowly we want to reach to the international market as well, which we've had some discussions, Turkey and like Central South America, but nothing has been materialized yet. But that's definitely in the pipeline for the future.
So I love that. It really is like coming to the marketplace with adding more value by essentially giving them the best rate and the highest quality.
The value add for us is, with Airbnb, anybody can host a property. So there's just a ton of inconsistency with what you're going to get. And I mean, if you guys have used Airbnb for some time, you know that some stays are better than others. So what we like to do is, just based off of our systems, is provide everyone with the exact same experience in Omaha, Nebraska, as they're going to get in Louisville, Kentucky, or in Cincinnati, Ohio. So they know what we offer, and this is all based off of our systems and procedures, right? Like, we look for a certain property that we're gonna try to lease, and that has certain boxes checked, and then that provides a really consistent experience. And we do have midterm stays that bounce around different states with us, and they've been repeat customers with us, spending tens of thousands of dollars.
Wow. So that's powerful, right? Right. Really dialing in and basically, one, getting a lifetime value from your customer, and then providing that sort of experience where it's very much like a McDonald's experience, where it's like, hey, no matter what McDonald's you walk into, whether it's here or there, if you're overseas, it's, what you're going to get. So there's a sense of, that's really cool. There's a sense of, hey, I know exactly what to expect.
Yes. And this has been refined, obviously, through trial and error. We strive for the best of service, and over time, we've had plenty of guests. We booked over 100,000 nights to date. So I mean, we've booked hundreds of years worth of time, and we've had time to look at the data and refine what we need to, as far as providing that consistent experience.
I wanna hit on something real quick. That's really important, guys. And this goes outside of real estate. This goes outside of everything. This goes into just building a legitimate business, especially if you want to build enterprise value. Robert went into an industry that truly is monopolized in a way, right? Airbnb, what it's done in a very, very short amount of time, has been amazing. But confronting the reality is that in the beginning, you're not going to, if you want to enter that marketplace and be any level of competition, you will not outspend them. You will not outmarket them, because they can just afford more, right? That is how Airbnb crushes so many of these businesses. They'll crush whatever individual micro sector they're in. It's just through their sheer size and spendability. You cannot compete in the law of attrition against them. But Robert was smart enough to realize, hey, like, our competitive advantage is not in marketing. It's not our ability to outspend them, because we can't. They're a $100 billion company. I mean, they're freaking massive, right? We will not be able to outcompete that marketplace. So let's not play that game. Instead, let's play the opposite game, which is, one, a lot of guys who do direct bookings, they'll actually utilize these sites to basically get the initial person in and then use them initially and then get them on direct booking later. But the reality is, you're looking and you're carving out your competitive advantage for you to stay alive in the beginning, to survive, and then you scale that up. That's exactly what you've done, is you've offered these people these lower rates that are more affordable. And the cool thing about most people there's the one-off Airbnb guys, and I don't know how many bookings as a standard across an entire platform like Airbnb are one-off people, but I would say there's a ginormous portion of these people that are also repeat. They're traveling a ton. They're guys like me and Marlon who travel across the country to speak every other freaking week. And we're always looking for that hookup, because guess what? When we're traveling and staying in a new Airbnb every other week, that shit adds up. And then if you can dial into that demographic, it is a tiny, tiny, tiny market share, but it's a repetitive market share. It is a repeating market share. That market share, getting them, and the cool thing is those people, Marlon has friends. And what does Marlon do? All he does is he hangs out with other badass people who speak on stages, and then he's going to do it. So these are beautiful, beautiful ways to build your enterprise value up and carve out that unique competitive advantage in a marketplace that is somewhat saturated, and do it in a beautiful way. And I love that you're forward pacing with the app. I mean, dude, props to you. This is like, it's like an episode. It's so funny. It's like an episode out of Shark Tank, but you've done things right so far.
Thank you. No, it's, to me, there's been so much that has gone right that I have to think like there's something bigger at play here, right? Because obviously there's been tons of rejection, and that goes just to the growth aspect and scaling it and all that. But there are certain key things that allowed me to be in the position that I'm in, and I'm very grateful. And I'm happy that you guys are here to hear me out on it.
Dude, I'm really curious, man. There's Marlon and I are really, really, really big on masterminding and mentorship, and always, when we need to, you pay to play to get into the room, right? A lot of our mentors, Marlon's mentors, are billionaires. My mentors are billionaires. And one thing that I'm really big on is getting into the right rooms with the right people. I'm in like a season of my career where I don't need more real estate mentorships. I don't need more real estate masterminding. Like, there's always more things to learn, but for me to grow and upgrade leverage. And guys, if you guys want to know the theme of what Robert's done, is that he started doing the deals, managing the cleaning, doing it all himself. And then what did he do? I love that he said this. No one actually hit on this too much, but he built SOPs. He explicitly tracked step by step in the stupidest fashion what works and how to do it so he can replace himself. And then he stepped up the leverage. Then he went and got more. Then he stepped up the leverage after having about a year of proof. He goes and brings in funding because he realized he has capital restraints if he's funding all the shit himself. And he doesn't just go to a private money lender. He goes to a big wig who's got massive amounts of liquidity every step of the way. And then once you have 100 properties that are on your platform, what do? How do you upgrade leverage more? You go into code, you go into software development, you go into SaaS, because SaaS is infinite, theoretically. And all these things, all Robert's doing is just constantly upgrading leverage. And one beautiful thing that I just want to commend you on, man, is you started doing this, when you were 21, 22?
Yep. I was 21 years old.
21, 22. Bro, most people who are 3-4 years into the industry, they're still calling sellers on their own, right? There's nothing wrong with that, but I want to challenge people to constantly developing themselves and getting bigger and bigger and bigger and better. And so upgrading leverage in a huge way. So I'm curious about this. Are you in any high-level masterminds?
I'm not, and I would say the big portion of why I'm not is because of my CFO. He's a high-level executor. I've learned more than enough working side by side with him, and I know that he's someone that a lot of people would die to be in front of and have a room with. And I've just been fortunate enough to make this run with him. And I told him that he's someone that I look up to and I want to have in my professional career. To have as someone I could look up to as a mentor. He's 40 years old, so he's a little bit older. But he's been, a big reason as to why, like, I've been just shadow and I've gone ghost online and everything too, because I was out on YouTube talking about all this stuff, but I realized I had a whole lot to learn and a whole lot to execute on. So the reason I even agreed to do this podcast is because I've personally been thinking about just reviving the YouTube channel. I grew up to like 20,000 subscribers, and then it just left it there. And most people would have never left that thing alone. It had potential, but it still does. I knew I had to walk away, and a big part of the reason why is I didn't want to be somebody talking online without a backbone and without having done something real. Because there were so many examples, even when I was making the content, of people that were just full of fluff and going on and saying all these things and then selling the course too, to enrich themselves. and I didn't want to go down that path when I knew that there was a whole game to be played.
Dude, I love that. This
Robert,
is something that we all talk about so much is, you got to be about what you say you're about. So one, I'll say this, congrats on doing that, man. Congrats on taking the high road. It's easy to take the course money. It is
Yeah,
easy to take the course money. It is easy to take the education money. It is harder to say no and build the damn ship. But if you're the guy who knows how to build the damn ship, that ship will take you a lot further. I just want to plant this in your head. 120K subscribers. I mean, that is no small feat, man. Congratulations on that. That is actually huge.
Thank you.
That's actually fantastic. I will say this. The good thing is this, right? In the marketplace of content creators, to your point, most of them are full of shit. Most of them will do 2 or 3 arbitrage deals and then come out with a course and charge $1,000 for a digital course, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's their business model. But there is a reason why guys like Alex Hermosi have completely dominated the online space entrepreneurship. Why? Not many people hit a $159 million valuation at 29. Not many people sold a series of businesses for a cumulative value and exited at 46.2 million, which he did at, I think, 29, right?
Yeah.
Not many people have actually done the damn thing. And it's okay to be in an oversaturated marketplace like STR. There's a ton of STR content creators out there, tons of them. But how many of them have made a $50 million exit?
Exactly. No, that's what I mean. You hit it right on the head. That you just that's my thought process along the way, and that's the truth. Is there's very few people who have actually done the work and know what it takes to commit to something that way, and ultimately coming out on the other side of it right now. I mean, I feel better than ever, and I'm glad you guys gave me the time and the platform right now. I mean, I'm willing to talk a little bit more about the opportunity for whoever's listening. Just to kind of get, kind of a breakdown of what this is.
100%. Yeah. Cause I mean, I'm already seeing questions in the chat where Victor's asking essentially, how can other host, people who are doing the short-term rental, but they're using the Airbnb and VRBOs, wondering if there's room, if there's space to be a part of what you're building. So I would love to hear the opportunity. I'd love for you to share that. Like, please. Absolutely.
There is. So when I created the code, I made sure to create a hosting side of this code so that people could come join and be a part of the platform just as they would on Airbnb. That is currently not something that I'm actively allowing people to join access to, just because that's a whole nother beast, that's going to come with its own problems. And I'm just really focusing on managing the portfolio right now, curating it and perfecting it. But there will be a time in the future where anyone can join Sleepover as a marketplace. And I thought about this, from an early perspective right now for any host who's really out there and they have a decent portfolio. It'd be just, it sounds cliche, but, obviously the direct booking, that it's a no brainer for me. And I know a lot of people just strictly host on Airbnb, and that's the biggest mistake you can make in this game right now, especially with the way things are headed. You want to make sure you're diversified with your distribution channels. I'm on 5 different booking channels aside from my own app. So I'm on everything that I can possibly have my hands on and have my brand awareness on. That's the big one right there. Just make sure you have a way to book your clients directly through a website.
Man, absolutely. I love that. I agree with you. And so down the road, people will eventually be able to come and host with you. But right now, that's not open to anyone as of yet.
As of yet, yeah, because I mean that opens up the door to trust and safety, and you have to understand that even with my experience, there's been instances with dealing with so many people as customers in and out. People entering and leaving spaces. There's problematic situations that occur, and that would need its own dedicated team of oversight just to make sure it's a safe platform for people to be using. And even Airbnb to this day has a trouble with the trust verification and the ID verification process of it.
Let me ask you, Robert, are you taking on investors? Are you at a place right now where for people who are listening and they're like, you know what, this sounds like there's something there. Is that something that are people able to, is there any round of investing that people are able to join?
Right now, the whole equity pool and the cap table is me and my co-founder. So we have a very clean slate, and we're looking to obviously work with high-level private equity firms or venture capital firms that can provide value. We haven't opened up anything even for friends and family, just because we've been so, focused on just getting the right investor to help us fuel that growth. I'm going to say something right now, and you guys take it as you will, but I have this modeled out to $1 billion. So I want to build $1 billion enterprise value corporation here, and obviously anyone with stock in the company is gonna do well right now, buying early on. But we are looking for just a few. We don't want to have 32 investors on the cap table. We want to keep it concise and small, and we bootstrapped it to this point, right? We bootstrapped it beyond the level that most people would actually get to, even with funding. So we're just looking for that one or two strategic partners here.
Man, I love it. And what I love so much is the focus, right? And I think that warrants talking on for a minute, because oftentimes we find a lot of individuals where they have something good, very much like how you had your YouTube channel, you had a couple of things going, and you were willing to sacrifice and push things to the side and temporarily turn off and put the blinders on to focus on the larger opportunity. And once you focused on that larger opportunity and locked in, that's where all of your attention went.
It still is there to this day, 110%. It's day one. Every day is day one, because if not, then you can kick back. I mean, I could have kicked back a long time ago, and I asked myself, why don't I stop? Even my friends and family, why don't you stop? But it's that focus, and ultimately the vision has to come to life. I like this saying, it's don't start something you're not going to finish. So.
Yo, Robert, I absolutely love that, man. I resonate with you. I see why Alejandro resonates with you. I see why Alejandro speaks so highly of you, man. I'm grateful that you came on and that you shared and that you are sharing. And by the way, people are already asking, how can they get in contact with you? Like, where's the best way to get a hold of you? Like, are you like on Instagram for them? Are you on YouTube? Like, if someone wants to just like be a fly on the wall and watch you, like, where can they go?
So you can start with my Instagram. I'm going to start, I've actually been recording content for the past 2 weeks. So I'm going to start releasing some content, short form, whatever. I mean, I'm going to pop up on the radar. But yeah, you can find me on Instagram for now. And obviously the YouTube channel is just my name.
Okay, so awesome.
And the YouTube channel provides kind of like the backstory too, because I did spend about 2 years documenting the start of all of this on YouTube. And I'm just going to come back to tie it all up.
Dude, I freaking love that. There's people waiting right now. Like Richard Knowles, one of our buddies, Richard Knowles, popped in here and he said he'd been watching you since the very beginning. So I think I found your IG here. This looks like it might be your Instagram right here.
I just posted it, Marlon.
Yep, I got you right here. I'm going to drop that inside here. Bro, I'm dropping a link, man. I want to make it easy for people to go and click that. Yo, Robert.
I appreciate it, guys. This has been great, and I definitely want to do a lot more of this. As time goes on.
Brother, absolutely, man. We appreciate you for being here. We appreciate you for sharing, for taking your time, for someone that's as focused as you are, and someone who understands the value of time as much as you do. I truly want to say thank you, because I don't think you can ever give us anything more valuable than what you gave us just now, which is your undivided attention and just sharing with us authentically. So seriously, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. We're looking forward to having you back in the future. We're looking forward to, like I said, when we put together every now and then, we'll put together high-level masterminds that are very intentional for us as individuals to grow by being in those right rooms with the right other people. So we'll be extending an invitation to you when those occur. And we would love to get connected with you in person, to have you come out and just plug in with some other like-minded people.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Heck yeah, man. I also want to ask just one question. But first, I want to thank you, Robert, for being one of those individuals that I got to experience early on, that there's so much more stuff to do out there. And as an entrepreneur, because I remember my first property where I didn't know what I was doing, but I remember that video I was watching with you. I think it was with your girlfriend at the time. Remember that house with the jungle vibe, with the trees?
That was
and
the first one. Yeah, that was the first property.
One.
Yeah,
bro, I didn't know what I was doing, but when I got this house, I just went to Home Depot, got some plants, paint the walls gray, and then I was like, I didn't know I would take one step and then I would go watch your video one more time and then, okay, look, this is the next step. I got to have some lights hanging around. So I just want to thank you for that, man, because I think that's really important. Just like how you went to go book that Airbnb in Dallas, I believe, and it just opened up your mind to something bigger. And I think that's something that's really important. But my one question is, because I think we all are in solitude as entrepreneurs, as the 1%ers. You know, when we get from this, we've been around this whole lifestyle, right? Because 95% of who we are comes from experience in our surroundings. So when you detaching yourself from that, where you want to make multi-millions or be a billionaire, when you have that doubt and when you go through so much, you know, BS per se, or so much hardship, what gets you going? What keeps you going, man? What do you tell yourself? What is it? Is it do you look at your family? Or because I know for me, when I'm in solitude and something happens to me where it's like, this is where a lot of people end their entrepreneurship and I keep going. I know for me, it's just, I accept it as this is what's supposed to happen because I asked for wisdom, I asked for experience, and this is what's supposed to happen to move to the next step. So for you, my question is, what is it that keeps you going, man, when you're
Well,
at that time?
no, that what you said is very, very accurate. You know, it's like it'll happen. You can't expect it not to happen. So when it does, and those hardships do come, and the solitude makes it difficult to deal with those problems. But it's obviously my family. I have a beautiful wife and a son, and I've always said I'm doing it for them. But then it goes back to even deeper, like to me individually. I didn't come this far to go back, I guess, is another thing too. So it's like whatever shit I have to eat, whatever glass I have to drag myself through, that's what is required. And on the other side of that is character development, and you become sharper, you become more able to process emotions and thoughts. So, you know, it is something that you have to have a reason why. And for me, you know, I do have a loving family that I can look at and say, hey, I want to give you guys everything that you deserve. But it also comes back to the individual level, like I said, and you got to keep it one day at a time. I mean, you can't look too far ahead. You got to take it one day at a time. And luckily, that's all we have. We just have the present moment of now, and we just got to keep acting in the now.
Beautiful, beautiful. And it's something you said is you just have to expect for bad stuff to happen. I think that alone, it's important. Anyone that's listening, write that down. You have to expect to go through, you know, hard times, because people quit because they have the wrong expectations. They put expectations for themselves. They see somebody on YouTube making $10,000 a month on Airbnb, and they get their first Airbnb, and you know, there's a flood, and they're like, oh yeah, this is not for me. No, you set the wrong expectation. That's a valuable lesson. That flood was a valuable lesson. So when you acquire your next property, you get to see what's going on with the plumbing, what's the inspection before I acquire this. And that's huge, man. So Robert, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much for joining in, man. I have tons and tons of questions written down here. I think I'm probably going to hit you up on Instagram and just be like, hey, you said XYZ. How do you fix this? So yeah, man. Anything else, Robert, you would like to say for any entrepreneurs listening to us right now? As far as like if they're looking to start or if they're too scared to start, you know, do you have any wise words you want to share with them?
Yeah, I mean, the starting is the hardest part, right? Because you got to make that first step, and that's a leap of faith that you're ultimately taking because you don't know where your foot's going to land. So just getting over whatever procrastination or analysis paralysis you're going through, because you could sit there and analyze for an entire year, and then the year is gone, and you've not taken any action. So my only thing, and what I've always just taught myself and learned how to navigate, is take the action. I recently saw the quote online, and it's been going around. It's like the magic you're looking for is in the work that you're avoiding, something like that. And it's just like, obviously, it's all cliche. You hear it a million times, but just do the thing. Whatever it is that you want to do, just do it. It's gonna suck. My first videos are still up. They're horrendous productions. I mean, it's and you know, it just takes time. It takes time to be good at something. So 4 years in, I would say that I have achieved mastery, which is what I set out to achieve. And it didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen from day one. I knew where I wanted to be, and the time is going to go by regardless for every one of us. So
Yo,
Beautiful.
Robert, I freaking love it. Everyone, do me a favor. This is Robert's IG. This is what it looks like. This is the real Robert. Go and give this man a follow. Show him some love. Show him some appreciation. Get tapped in and continue to surround yourself around the right people, because this is the right kind of people. And Robert, I was going through your IG a little bit, saw that you ride motorcycles. So we're definitely, I'm just planting this seed right now. We are going for a ride, man. I love finding other people who enjoy two wheels. So we will absolutely be making that happen in the future.
Hey, I'm down to join that, bro. You know I'm all about the cafe racers too. I think I told Robert about that. But I'm down.
Yeah, you guys, it's been great meeting all of you, and we'll chat more.
Mr. Sam, anything else?
Yeah, go make $1 billion freaking dollars, bro. That's it. Go do that, and then let us know what's there. Thank you, brother.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Robert, appreciate you, brother.
Have a good one.
Thank you, brother.
Yo, guys.